Phantom from the Void. The Hegemony Empire had ruled the stars for nearly 8 centuries without meaningful challenge. Every species knew its place in the grand design, every ship possessed proper registration, and every celestial body was meticulously mapped and categorized. The Empire's reach extended across 17 major galactic arms, encompassing over 4,000 inhabited worlds and nearly 30 sentient species. Order through unity. Unity through compliance. This was the doctrine that allowed civilization to flourish among the stars. At least, that's what the official broadcasts proclaimed daily across the Empire's vast communication network. At the edge of the Veridan expanse, the Imperial Monitor Station Outpost 73 floated silently against the backdrop of a dim red dwarf. The station's sensor arrays swept the surrounding space methodically, searching for anomalies, unregistered vessels, or natural phenomena that might require Imperial attention. Senior Commander Vexer Trill stifled a yawn as he reviewed the latest sensor logs. A Silurian by birth, his scaled skin had faded from vibrant blue to a dull gray after decades of service aboard frontier outposts. The Veridan sector had been quiet for his entire 15-year assignment, so quiet that he'd requested transfer 6 times, each denied without explanation. "Commander," called a young technician from the monitoring pit, "sensors are detecting an anomalous energy signature at grid coordinate 227 to 4391. Vexer flicked his tertiary eyelid in irritation. Probably another solar flare from that unstable binary in the neighboring sector. Run the standard diagnostic and clear it. "Sir, diagnostic already complete. The signature, it's moving." That caught Vexer's attention. He straightened in his command chair and activated the tactical display. "Show me." The central hologram flickered to life, displaying a 3-dimensional map of the sector. A small red dot pulsed near the edge of Imperial space, definitely in motion and definitely not following any registered trade or patrol route. "Magnify and analyze composition," ordered Vexer, suddenly alert. The technician's fingers danced across the interface. "Sir, it's a vessel. Large, mass consistent with a capital ship. Energy readings suggest advanced propulsion, and..." The technician hesitated, rechecking the readings. "Weapons systems. Active weapons systems. Identification." "None, sir. No transponder signal. No registration beacon." Vexer felt a chill run down his spine. Every vessel within Empire space was required by law to broadcast identification. Even diplomatic ships from the few remaining independent worlds adhered to this protocol. "Origin vector. The ship emerged from the Forbidden Zone, sir." The command center went silent. The Forbidden Zone was a vast region of space on the edge of the Empire, designated off-limits 3 centuries ago. Few remembered why anymore. Something about contamination and dangerous ideologies. The official history mentioned a rebellious species that had been properly dealt with. "Sir," the technician whispered, "analysis of the hull structure suggests it matches no known configuration in our database. But there's something familiar." Vexer leaned forward. "Meaning?" "The structural design. It resembles ancient records of human vessels." The word hung in the air like a deadly toxin. Human. A species erased from the galaxy centuries ago after their violent resistance to Imperial integration. The extinction had been thorough, methodical, and complete, or so the histories claimed. "That's impossible," Vexer snapped. "Run another analysis." "Sir, analysis confirmed. And there's more. The ship is transmitting." "Put it through." The command center speakers crackled to life. No voice came through, just a rhythmic series of tones that repeated in a precise pattern. An older technician's face drained of color. "Sir, that's a human military code. I studied it in historical threats at the Academy." Vexer's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. Humans were extinct. Every record confirmed it. The Great Purge had been absolute. Earth sterilized, colonies dismantled, survivors hunted to extinction. It was necessary. They were too unpredictable, too violent, refused to accept their proper place in the galactic order. Send the standard hailing sequence, Vexor ordered, and alert Imperial Command. Priority Alpha. Minutes passed with no response from the vessel. Then, the pattern of tones changed. The older technician translated. It says, "We remember." Vexor felt his blood run cold. "Launch interceptors. I want that ship contained until reinforcements arrive." 4 Imperial fighters streaked away from the station, converging on the unknown vessel. The tactical display tracked their approach. "Sir, the vessel is powering weapons." Before Vexor could respond, the tactical display flashed. 2 interceptors vanished instantly. The 3rd and 4th veered away, but the mysterious ship tracked them effortlessly. Another flash. All 4 interceptors gone. The ship had eliminated Imperial military vessels with surgical precision. "Sir," the communications officer called out, voice trembling, "we're receiving a transmission. Visual this time." Vexor hesitated only briefly. On screen, the command center's main display flickered and resolved into an image that caused several crew members to gasp. A human female stood on what appeared to be a command bridge. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes burned with intensity. She wore a black uniform with unfamiliar insignia. "This is Captain Maya Rise of the Earth vessel Defiant," the human said, her voice calm and measured. "Your empire believed us extinct. You were mistaken." Vexor found his voice. "This is Senior Commander Vexor Trill of the Hegemony Empire. Your presence in Imperial space is unauthorized. Your species status is—" He faltered. The human's expression didn't change. "My species status. Let me help you with that, Commander. We are the survivors. We are the ones who escaped your genocide. We are the memory your empire tried to erase. The integration conflict was centuries ago," Vexor said carefully. "Whatever grievances your ancestors had were never addressed," Captain Rise interrupted. "Were justified. Were buried along with billions of innocent lives." She leaned forward slightly. "But we did not forget, and now we have returned." "What do you want?" Vexor asked, desperately trying to stall until reinforcements could arrive. "Justice," she replied simply. "Truth. And for your empire to face what it has done." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the station. "Sir, the vessel is transmitting massive data packets across all Imperial frequencies." "Block it," Vexor shouted. "I can't. They're bypassing our security protocols like they don't even exist." On screens throughout the station, images began to appear. Documents, video recordings, evidence of atrocities committed during what the Empire had always called the human integration conflict. Scenes of civilian populations being systematically eliminated, Imperial orders calling for total extinction. The truth, hidden for centuries, was pouring through every communication channel in the sector. Imperial Grand Admiral Theris Vel stalked the command deck of the dreadnought Immutable Justice, her long ceremonial cape flowing behind her as she reviewed tactical displays. 22 capital ships had answered her emergency summons, forming the largest battle group assembled in the sector in over a century. "Report," she demanded of her executive officer. "The unidentified vessel remains in position near Outpost 73, Admiral. It has made no aggressive moves since destroying the interceptors. However, it continues broadcasting data across Imperial channels." Theris's face remained impassive, but her mind raced. In her 4 decades of service to the Empire, she had risen through the ranks by being both brilliant and unquestioningly loyal. Yet she had always suspected there were chapters of Imperial history that had been sanitized or completely erased. The human question was one such chapter. As a young officer, she had accessed restricted archives that hinted at a much different account of the human integration conflict than what was taught in Imperial academies. Those records suggested humans hadn't been aggressive expansionists threatening Imperial stability, but rather a species that simply refused to surrender their autonomy. And the Empire had destroyed them for it. or apparently had failed to destroy them completely. Has Imperial High Command responded to our situation report? She asked. Yes, Admiral. Our orders are to neutralize the vessel, recover any technology and intelligence possible, and eliminate all aboard. Theris nodded. And the data being transmitted? Information Control is attempting to suppress it, but the signal adapts faster than they can block it. Reports are coming in of civil unrest on 3 worlds already as the information spreads. So it had begun. The Empire's carefully constructed history was unraveling. Admiral, her tactical officer called out, the human vessel is moving. All eyes turned to the main tactical display. The ship, the Defiant, was indeed in motion, but not retreating or advancing toward the Imperial fleet. Instead, it executed a perfect series of maneuvers that positioned it directly between the Imperial formation and the nearest inhabited world. They're placing themselves as a shield, Theris murmured. Clever. If the Imperial fleet fired, they risked hitting the planet behind. It was a test. Would the Empire risk civilian casualties to eliminate this threat? Admiral, we're being hailed. Theris straightened her uniform. On screen, Captain Maya Reyes appeared once more, her expression determined. Admiral, she acknowledged with a slight nod. I see the Empire takes us seriously enough to send its finest. You've committed acts of aggression against Imperial forces, Theris replied evenly. Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded. Maya smiled without humor. We both know that's not going to happen. Your Empire tried to erase my species from existence. You failed. We survived. We rebuilt. And now we've returned, not for revenge, but for justice. Justice according to whom? Theris challenged. According to the evidence we're sharing with every world in your empire, Maya responded. The unaltered records of what really happened. The orders to exterminate an entire species not because we were a threat, but because we refused to submit. Theris felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Those events happened centuries ago, and yet your empire continues to exist on the foundation of that lie, Maya countered. How many other species have suffered similar fates? How many voices have been silenced? The Empire preaches order through unity, but enforces it through fear and deception. A junior officer approached Theris, whispering urgently in her ear. Reports were flooding in from across Imperial space. The human data transmissions had reached the core worlds. Protests were erupting on a dozen planets. Questions were being asked in the Imperial Senate itself. What is it you hope to accomplish? Theris asked, fighting to maintain her composure. Change, Maya replied simply. The truth cannot remain buried forever, Admiral. Your empire stands at a crossroads. Continue on its path of suppression and lies, or acknowledge its crimes and reform. And if we choose the former? Maya's expression hardened. Then you should know the Defiant is not alone. We are the first, but not the last. Humanity has spent centuries preparing for this moment. The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in stunned silence. Theris turned away from the screen, her mind in turmoil. The Empire had taught her that order was paramount, that unity required conformity, that some sacrifices were necessary for the greater good. But genocide, the systematic erasure of an entire species and its history. As she contemplated her next move, she knew the Empire itself hung in the balance. The lie had been exposed. The phantom from the void had returned. And nothing would ever be the same again. The truth unburies itself. Captain Maya Reyes stood alone in her quarters aboard the Defiant, staring at a small hologram that floated above her desk. It showed a family, her family, standing before a modest dwelling on New Terra Colony. Her parents, her younger brother, herself as a child. All smiling, unaware that within days their world would be reduced to ash by Imperial plasma bombardment. Maya had been off-world when it happened, barely 10 years old, accompanying her scientist aunt on a research mission. They'd received the news while in transit. New Terra was gone. Everyone was gone. Later, they learned it wasn't just New Terra. It was Earth. It was every human settlement across the stars. The Hegemony Empire had decided humanity was a threat to galactic stability. Unpredictable, defiant, unwilling to surrender their autonomy to become another obedient species in the imperial hierarchy. So they were erased, except for those who escaped, those who fled to the darkest corners of the galaxy, beyond imperial reach, those who built hidden enclaves, preserving their culture, their history, their determination. For 3 centuries, they had prepared for this moment. A chime at her door pulled Maya from her memories. "Enter," she called, deactivating the hologram. Commander Eli Chen, her executive officer, stepped inside. His face showed the strain of the past 48 hours. "Status report," Maya said, straightening her uniform. "The Imperial fleet remains in position, Captain. No aggressive movements, but they've deployed in a standard containment formation. Our transmissions continue to penetrate their blocking attempts. Reports indicate the information has reached 87% of Imperial worlds." Maya nodded, "And the collective?" 7 ships have reported successful infiltration of their assigned sectors. The Phoenix and Remembrance have encountered resistance but remain operational. The human collective, the hidden federation of survivor colonies, had planned this operation for decades. The Defiant was merely the first to reveal itself, a calculated move to focus Imperial attention, while other vessels quietly positioned themselves throughout Empire space. "Admiral Theritz hasn't ordered an attack," Maya noted. "Interesting." Chen's expression was cautious. "You think she might be sympathetic? I think she's intelligent. She knows what this revelation means for the Empire." Maya moved to the viewport, watching the distant lights of the Imperial fleet. 3 centuries of lies are unraveling. The perfect hegemony is facing its darkest truth. In the Imperial Center Library on the capital world of Celestis, Junior Archivist Kelvin Exor worked feverishly at his terminal. Around him, the vast repository of historical records hummed with activity as scholars and officials attempted to verify or refute the shocking data flooding Imperial networks. Kelvin was different from his colleagues. Where they sought to defend the Empire's version of history, he had long harbored doubts. Minor inconsistencies in official records, redacted sections that hinted at darker truths. Now, with the human transmissions providing new context, he was finding connections that had eluded him for years. "Archivist Exor," called a stern voice from behind him. Kelvin turned to find Senior Censor Volk looming over his workstation, flanked by 2 Imperial security officers. "You've accessed restricted archives without authorization," Volk said coldly. "Specifically, original documentation regarding the human integration conflict." Kelvin felt his heart race, but kept his expression neutral. As a Phyraxian, his species was known for intellectual pursuits rather than confrontation. The Empire had integrated them easily, centuries ago. "I accessed only what was necessary to verify the authenticity of these new transmissions," he replied carefully. "As is my duty as an archivist." "Your duty is to maintain the official historical record," Volk countered, "not to question it. Even when evidence suggests the record may be incomplete." The senior censor's face darkened. "The Empire determines what is evidence and what is sedition. Archivist, your access has been revoked. These officers will escort you to your quarters until a formal inquiry can be conducted." As Kelvin was led away, he caught glimpses of the library in chaos. Archivists arguing with censors, security personnel removing terminals. The Empire was scrambling to contain what could not be contained: truth. But Kelvin had already succeeded in his real mission. While distracting Volk with his visible research, he had transmitted the most damning evidence to external networks. The original, unredacted command logs from the Human Purge, orders signed by Emperor Valfor himself, the revered founder of the modern hegemony, explicitly calling for the complete extermination of humanity as an example to other potential dissidents. The files were now spreading across every communication channel in the galaxy. Admiral Theris stood in her private chambers aboard the immutable Justice, reviewing the mounting reports of unrest throughout the Empire. 27 worlds had reported significant protests. 3 colonial governors had publicly demanded answers from Imperial Center. The Mercantile Guild, backbone of the Empire's economy, had issued a statement expressing grave concern over historical revelations. Empire was fracturing before her eyes. Her secure communication terminal chimed with an incoming transmission from Imperial High Command, specifically from Grand Executor Selvin, the Emperor's right hand and the true power behind the throne. Admiral. Selvin's holographic form appeared, his elongated Praxian features set in a grim expression. The situation has become untenable. You are hereby ordered to eliminate the human vessel immediately and without further delay. Theris straightened. Sir, I must advise against this course of action. The human transmissions have already spread throughout Imperial space. Destroying their vessel now would only martyr their cause. Your advice is not required, Admiral, only your obedience. Selvin's voice was ice. Furthermore, you will implement Protocol Zero. Theris felt her blood run cold. Protocol Zero was the Empire's most extreme contingency, the complete sterilization of a planetary population to contain ideological contamination. It had never been implemented in her lifetime. The target? She asked, already dreading the answer. Outpost 73 and the Veridan colony on its adjacent planet. 12 million Imperial citizens. Selvin's expression showed no remorse. The official record will show they were destroyed by human aggression, a tragic demonstration of why their species was deemed too dangerous to exist within civilized space. The pieces fell into place. The Empire would create a new lie to cover the old one. Millions would die to preserve the hegemony's perfect image. Transmission ends, Selvin said, his hologram disappearing before Theris could respond. The Admiral stood frozen, the weight of command crushing down upon her. Her entire life had been devoted to the Empire, to maintaining the peace and order it promised. But this, her door chimed. Enter, she called, her voice barely steady. Her executive officer stepped inside. Admiral, we've received new orders from Imperial High Command. They're unprecedented. I'm aware of the orders, Commander. He hesitated. The targeting systems for Protocol Zero require your personal authorization code. And they shall have it, Theris said, turning to face him. Prepare the fleet for immediate action. The commander saluted and departed. Alone again, Theris activated her personal terminal and began entering a series of commands, not to authorize Protocol Zero, but to access the most secure communication channel available to her. Minutes later, the face of Captain Maya Reyes appeared on her screen. I didn't expect a private call, Admiral, the human said cautiously. Listen carefully, Captain. I have received orders to destroy your vessel and implement Protocol Zero against the Veridan colony. 12 million lives sacrificed to create a narrative that humans are still the monsters the Empire has portrayed them as. Maya's expression hardened. Why are you telling me this? Because I've spent my life serving an ideal, not a lie. Theris took a deep breath. I'm transmitting fleet security codes and Protocol Zero authorization. You have approximately 20 minutes before my executive staff realizes what I've done. Understanding dawned on Maya's face. You're defecting. I'm choosing truth, Theris corrected. What you do with these codes is your decision. But know this, if the Empire succeeds in its deception today, the cycle of lies continues. The transmission ended. Theris removed her command insignia and placed it on her desk. 3 centuries of history had come full circle. The phantoms that the Empire had tried to erase had returned to call it to account. And she had chosen her side. Across Imperial space, the carefully maintained order was dissolving by the hour. On the academic world of Tellurian Prime, students and faculty barricaded themselves in the central archives, transmitting unredacted historical documents to the public. In the mercantile guilds of Exor, trade unions declared solidarity strikes, until the Imperial Senate addressed the human evidence. On frontier worlds where imperial control had always been tenuous, colonial governments openly questioned their allegiance to a regime built on genocide. And aboard the Defiant, Captain Maya Rice faced the most crucial decision of her life. "The Admiral's codes check out," Commander Chen reported. "We have access to their fleet systems and the Protocol Zero targeting array." Maya nodded grimly. "And they're really planning to sacrifice Veridan Colony. The targeting systems are already locked. 12 million lives to frame us as the villains of their new narrative." The command bridge fell silent as the weight of the moment settled upon them. This had always been a possibility in their planning, that the Empire would sacrifice its own citizens rather than face the truth. "Options?" Maya asked, looking around at her senior staff. "We use the Admiral's codes to disable their weapon systems," offered her tactical officer. "It would buy time but wouldn't solve the underlying problem." "We could warn the colony," suggested another. "Try to evacuate as many as possible. 12 million people in 20 minutes. Chen shook his head. "Impossible." Maya stood and walked to the main viewport, gazing out at the Imperial fleet. For 3 centuries, humanity had lived in the shadows, building strength, preserving their history, waiting for the moment to return and demand justice. Not revenge, justice. "We didn't come here to start another war," she said finally. "We came here to expose the truth." She turned back to her crew. "Use the Admiral's codes to access the Imperial broadcast network, the one used for emergency communications to all Imperial worlds simultaneously." "What's the message?" Chen asked. "The truth. All of it. Not just what the Empire did to humanity, but what they're planning to do now to their own citizens. Transmit everything. The Protocol Zero orders, Admiral Theris's defection, the targeting of Veridan Colony." Her communications officer nodded. "And then?" "Then we do what humanity has always done best," Maya said, a determined smile forming on her lips. "We improvise." The message spread like wildfire through the Empire. Not just the historical truth now, but the immediate danger to Veridan Colony. Imperial citizens watched in horror as the evidence unfolded in real time. The Emperor's orders, the planned sacrifice of millions to maintain a lie. On hundreds of worlds, people took to the streets, not in violent revolution, but in unified demand for accountability. Aboard Imperial ships throughout the fleet surrounding the Defiant, crews learned the truth about their mission. On 3 vessels, officers refused orders to prepare for Protocol Zero implementation. And on the immutable Justice, Admiral Theris was placed under arrest, but not before her actions had changed the course of history. The Defiant used the chaos to broadcast a final message from Captain Maya Rice to the entire Empire. "People of the hegemony, I speak to you not as an enemy, but as a witness. For 3 centuries, your empire has buried the truth of its founding, that it was built upon the attempted extinction of my species. Today, your leaders were prepared to sacrifice millions of your own citizens to maintain that lie. Humanity does not return seeking vengeance or conquest. We return seeking acknowledgement, justice, and reform. We offer not war, but reconciliation, if your empire can find the courage to face its darkest truths and change. The choice is yours. Continue to live under the shadow of lies, or build something better together. We will be waiting." 3 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of New Hope Station, a neutral meeting ground established in the Veridan system. Below her, representatives from across the Empire and the human collective gathered for historic negotiations. The Empire had not fallen, not entirely, but it had transformed. The Emperor had abdicated. The Imperial Senate had established a Truth Commission. Colonial worlds had gained new autonomy, and humanity had emerged from the shadows, reclaiming their place among the stars. Commander Chen joined her at the viewport. "The Talarian delegation has arrived." "That's everyone." Maya nodded, watching the diverse gathering below. "Did you ever think we'd see this day?" "Honestly, I expected either victory or death. I never imagined. Cooperation. Maya smiled. Perhaps that was the Empire's greatest mistake in trying to erase us. They forgot what makes humanity unique. Our stubbornness, Chen suggested with a wry smile. Our capacity for both justice and forgiveness, Maya corrected. Our ability to remember the past without being imprisoned by it. Below them, the formal proceedings began as Admiral Theris, now heading the Imperial delegation, approached the central podium. Once the Empire's most decorated commander, she had become something perhaps more important, its conscience. It won't be easy, Chen cautioned. 3 centuries of Imperial dominance won't transform overnight. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy, Maya replied, turning from the viewport. But today, the truth no longer lies buried. And that's how change begins. As she prepared to join the assembly below, Maya thought of all those who hadn't lived to see this day. The billions lost in the purge, the generations who had kept the flame of humanity alive in exile, her own parents and brother on New Terra. The phantoms of the past had returned from the void, not to haunt the living, but to heal the future. And the galaxy would never be the same again.